Hi there, my name is Chad Troftgruben, and this course is all about Moho and After Effects. In this course, you'll learn about Moho compositions, how to export out image sequences from Moho, then we'll go into After Effects and spruce up the scene with blurs, particle effects, other animations, and we'll also touch on blend modes and how to just enhance the scene, color it differently, and make it pop more for your audience. This course was originally on Udemy and tunefiles.com and is now available here for archival purposes. And I'll leave a link to that original course in case you want access to the work files. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something.
For this video, we are inside of After Effects and we're working off of 08 Animating Sparks.aep. Feel free to open this file up if you want to follow along. So if we take a look at this, I can just click on the composition panel and hit the space bar. You can see that even with the little work that we've done, things are looking pretty good. And we're really just using all the assets from Moho, and just by adding some glows and blurs, things are already looking better. But we can add more to this, and all it requires is just animating out some new elements, re-implementing them into Moho, and then putting them back into here. Now we could go through and natively just put in some particles into the shot and all of that. The only problem is, because of the way the camera's moving, we would have to do some tracking in order to get this all to work inside of After Effects. And in the end, it might be easier just to use the original camera movement from Moho in order to set up these effects. But first, I want to build the effects inside of After Effects, as I like the way particles work in there compared to Moho. Let's go ahead and make a new composition. We can use Command N or Control N if you're on Windows to do so. And we can keep this at 1920 by 1080 at 24 frames per second. And I'm just going to go in here and rename it to Sparks. Now, I'm going to come down here to the duration and change it to 10 seconds. That way I have some time to play with as I start to implement this. And then I can click OK. So now we're just in a new composition. We can go back to Comp 1 and we can see our character animation right here. So that's fine. We're not losing anything. And I want to make a new adjustment layer. To do that, you can use Command or Control, Alt, and Y, and that will put up a new adjustment layer for you. Coming over here to the effects and presets, I'm going to type in Particle and find Particle World, and drag and drop it onto the adjustment layer. Now, if I hit the space bar, you're going to see we have some stuff occurring on screen. We have the default particle ready to go. Now we're not going to do anything too extreme with the particles. We're just going to work with the preset particles we have in After Effects and then just adjust the physics and try to get it to do what we want it to do. So what I can come in and do first is try to figure out how I want this to work. I think I want it to shoot up, kind of like a fountain. So I can come down here and try to find something that will work for this. If I go to cone axis, that's actually looking pretty good. I think something like that would be suitable for what I want. Now, I do want to adjust some other things though. If we come in, we can adjust the extra, which allows us to kind of shore this up a little bit, which I want to do. And if we adjust the gravity, you can see that we can have it go up higher as well. And I can always click and drag on the origin point to bring it down, just so it's not getting cut off. So it kind of looks like this now. Coming up here, I might kick back the birth rate just a little bit, maybe to about 0.3. So we can take a look at this now. It's kind of looking like that. And there's probably some other things I can come in here and play with. It really just kind of depends on what you're looking for. And sometimes you just got to play with these options in order to figure out exactly what you want. But I can come over here. I'm going to increase the max opacity to 100%. And the color birth and death, I can come in, and for the death color, maybe make it a darker red. And then for the birth color, perhaps something more orange, like that. Actually, I think I'll keep it at yellow. It's looking pretty good, actually. And then come back here, and let's put it back to orange. I was looking at this, and it's like, yeah, I think I like that better. So, okay, we'll just go with something like that. And I think everything else is looking okay. The last thing I do want to do is come in and adjust the speed. So I can right-click on the adjustment layer and go to time, and then go to time stretch. This will bring up a new panel. You can either enter in your stretch factor or choose the duration you're looking for. In this case, since it's 10 seconds, if I put 300, it's going to be 30. But I'm going to try 300 and then click OK. I just want this to slow down a little bit. That might be a little bit too slow. So I'm going to just go back into the time stretch just by right-clicking and choosing time. And let's try 200. I think that'll work. So the last thing I want to do is just scale that back just by clicking on the layer and moving it to the left. That way it doesn't start like it's coming out. It's already just started. And you can see that we just have this animation going like that. One last thing I might do, just so it's a little bit easier to work with, I'm going to make this a 3D layer just by clicking on the 3D button next to that layer. And I want to make a new camera layer as well. So just go up to Layer, New, and then Camera, or Alt-Shift-Command-C. I always kind of forget that shortcut, but you just want to set up the default camera is fine and click OK. We're just going to use the camera to zoom this in a little bit. I just find it easier once you have your elements on screen just to use a camera, or at least sometimes I find it easier. So we're just going to unveil the camera options and then find the position Z property and just bring it forward like that. So now it's closer to the screen. So we have a nice big image for the export. So we have something that looks like that. Okay. So now we're just going to come over here and queue this up for export. So I can come up here to Composition and then Add to Adobe Media Encoder. And this is just going to launch Media Encoder, and it will place this composition into Media Encoder, so that way we can export it out. But before I do that, I'm going to pause here, and we're going to create some more particles to help us enhance this scene in the next couple videos. For this video, I am working off of 09 Animating Small Bubbles.aep. Feel free to open up this file. We now want to animate out some other particles to help enhance this shot. So what I'll do here is come over to the project panel and locate Sparks, which is the one I made from the previous video. And I'm just going to duplicate it. So Command D or Control D if you're on Windows. Hit enter on the new file and rename it to Bubbles. Now, I can double click on Bubbles to go inside of that composition, and we can use this now as a starting point. And that way we can have the camera set up, ready to go, and we don't have to worry about messing with any of that. So let's go ahead and click on Adjustment Layer and go into the Effects. That way we can look at the controls. And let's start by coming down here to the particle itself. And for the bubbles, I want them to be a faded sphere, I believe. You could also choose bubble if you wish. Actually, let's go ahead and go with bubble. I think that'll work for our purposes. So coming down, we have the birth and death size. I might just adjust some of this really quick here. So the birth size is going to be a little bit smaller. And then the death size will be bigger. Coming up here to the birth rate, I think I'm going to reduce that significantly. and the longevity can go down to about 0.4. So if I play this, it kind of looks like this right now. So that's looking pretty good. I think I can keep the color the same. I might adjust the size variation a bit and bring down the max opacity to about 60. Anything else you can go through and play around with if you wish. So if we go into our physics, we can just look at this stuff. I might move the extra out just a little bit to about 0.6. Actually, I changed my mind. Let's put it back to about 0.2. There we go. And I might adjust the gravity just so it goes up a little bit. But other than that, I think it's looking good. The other thing I do want to do, though, with bubbles is right-click on the adjustment layer and go to time stretch. And here, I want to extend this, let's say, to 400 and click OK, just to see what it looks like. And that's looking pretty good. So now we have the bubbles set up for the shot. We can pause here and move on to animating the rock bubbles in the next video. For this video, I am working off of 10 animatingrockbubbles.aep. Feel free to open up this file. I'm going to do just a second set of bubbles that will hang closer to the rocks. So let's first come over here to the project panel, and I'm going to duplicate bubbles and then hit enter on that new comp and name this one rock bubbles and then hit enter. Double click on rock bubbles to make sure we are inside, and I can close out of any of the other effect compositions. Now I'm going to go into the effect controls for this adjustment layer and come down here to the particle. I want to change the bubble to a shaded sphere. Then I'm going to come down here and adjust the birth size just a little bit, as well as the depth size. And I want to just see what this looks like right now. Let's come over here. I want to make this more condensed. So to do that, we can work with the gravity as well as some of the velocity settings. But if we come in here and adjust the gravity, it's going to look like it's hanging towards the bottom like so. And let's increase the extra just a little bit. I'm also going to come up here and adjust the birth rate a little bit more, just to about 0.3. So it's looking like that. I'm also going to come down here and adjust the time really quick. Scale this back to about 250. Hit OK and see what that looks like. That's looking pretty good. I might come up here to the producer and adjust the X value of the radius just a little bit. So now we have something that looks like that. But I'm also now going to come in and increase the birth rate quite a bit more. Let's go to about 2. So it's kind of looking like that now. And, you know, looking at this one more time, I'm going to go back to the time adjustments here. And let's put this at about 325. I think that's looking better. The final thing I'm going to do is just grab this and move it up. So we want to grab the actual position for the emitter, which is the Y position, and just bring it up so nothing is really cut off. We might have a little bit cut off on the right, so I'm just going to scoot that over. That's looking pretty good. Maybe just reduce the X radius a little bit here. There we go. I'll do that. That way we don't have anything cut off, because if we have something cut off, it could look a little bit awkward. So there we go. We're now just going to save this, and then we can move on to exporting out our effects. For this video, we are working off of 11 exportingparticles.aep, and we're inside of After Effects. What I want to do is export out the particles I just created in the past 3 videos. And this is pretty easy, but I figured I would make a separate video just in case if you're unaware of the process. So let's come over here to the project panel, and I'm just going to open up Bubbles as well as Sparks and Rock Bubbles. So you can see when we come through, we have all these particles. So now we'll start with Sparks. We'll just come up to Composition and then Add to Adobe Media Encoder. And this can take a moment depending on how complex the composition is, as well as if you have Media Encoder opened up or not. But as you can see, it has placed Sparks within my Q panel for what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to come in and queue up Bubbles as well. Just come down here and add to Adobe Media Encoder, and then Rock Bubbles. And you can also use Command-Alt-M or Control-Alt-M, I would assume, on Windows, and that will also add it to the queue. So now, for my format here, I'll first select all these just so they are all highlighted, then click on my format here and then choose PNG from the list. And this will give you then PNG sequence with alpha as the first preset to come up, which is what we want. And so now I'm just going to come in here and assign each of these a destination. So I'll place these, of course, in the exercise files, and you will have access to these. I'm just going to make a new folder, name it Sparks, and I'll hit save and it'll go in there. We'll do the same now for this one, the Bubbles. So exercise files, new folder, name it Bubbles. Unlike Moho, when you export out through Media Encoder, you don't have the ability to automatically make folders, which is really nice with that aspect. And maybe there is actually a way and I just don't know of it, but we're just going to do this really quick. Just exercise files, new folder, and we can name this one Rock Bubbles, and then we'll save it in there. And then all we have to do is hit the Start Queue button, and it will start rendering out. And again, this can take some time depending on the complexity. But once we're done, we can jump back into Moho, implement these effects, then jump back to After Effects to polish it all up. For this video, I'm back inside of Moho. We are working off of 12neweffects.moho. Feel free to open up this file if you wish to follow along. I now want to implement my effects that I created in After Effects into here, so that way we can properly track all the camera movements as we move forward. So we'll want to import 3 image sequences. Let's go up here to File, Import, and then choose Image Sequence from the list. We're going to come over here to the exercise files and then locate any of the particles, which first we can just start with Bubbles, click on the first image within the list, and then choose Open. And I can just come in right now and rename that to Bubbles, so that way we know what it is. We're going to do the same for the other 2 effects. So import your image sequence, back out to the exercise files. In this case, we'll locate Rock Bubbles, and then we can click to import. And once again, I'll just rename it to Rock Bubbles. And then you have your final one. We just come in here, import the Sparks. So exercise files, locate the Sparks folder, grab Sparks 0, and then choose to open it. We can rename this to Sparks, and we're good to go. Now you'll want to make sure that you bring these effects into the scene folder. So there you go. And now it's just a matter of going through and placing these where we want them. So we can start with the Sparks. Let me just hide the other 2 for right now. And the first thing you want to do is sort of get a feel for where this is at. So it's currently behind this rock. If we bring it forward, it's still behind the rock. Keep going. Right here is where you're in front of the rock. So we can just come over here knowing that. And I'm just going to move this up a little bit like so. And then we're just going to shrink it down, possibly even to 0.3 of the original size. So I'll just come in and add 0.3 to all the dimensions and just kind of come down like this. And you can see it's just going to animate like this. It's right there. And it's currently doing its thing. Now I'm going to do this for other parts of the animation. I want to come in and just duplicate this image sequence, and we're going to keep moving with it. So this one I can put more into the distance, maybe lower it a little bit. So come in maybe like this, and then we can shrink it down like that. That way we don't see the bottom of it. So you have that going on. We can duplicate again. So I'll come in and duplicate the original. We can move this one a little bit closer if we want. Perhaps maybe a little bit lower like that. So just sort of there's some presence to it. We know it's going on like that. All right, then we're going to keep going, duplicate the sparks yet again. And we're just going to, this time, move some stuff into the background. And we're going to move this one a few more times. Maybe put this one back even more. Like that. And then we can do one more. We come in and just move it over like so. And I know I lied. One more. Let's just do one more. So let's find the original sparks one more time. If I can find it here. And if you ever have issues, you can always come in and just search for the name and then work that way. And just come over like this. And I think I'm just going to place that one right here. And I think that'll be good. Now, the next thing I want to do is come in with all of these sparks. And we're just going to offset them all a little bit so that they don't all animate at the same time. So if I click on the sequencer and we go into this section, I can click and drag to the left to offset these and have them start basically sooner than they originally were. But even if you just do it a few frames, you are going to make it look like they're animating differently than the others. So we can just come in here and do that for any of the sparks. Now we can of course have one that isn't offset, so that way they all look a little bit different. But once you're good there, you can come back and we can just thumb through this and we can see now that it's looking pretty good. So now the next step would be to implement the other effects. So we're just going to come over here and find the bubbles that we imported. And again, it might just help just to come in and type in bubbles and we can bring it up like so. Let's get an idea of where this is at. So right here would be in front of the rock. I'm just going to come in and shrink this down, maybe to about half its size. Actually, maybe a little bit more. Let's go 0.3 again. So something like that. And then we can just have the bubbles sort of animating out like this. And we're just going to do the same thing now where we come in and we add bubbles to different parts of the set. And we can put these in a little bit more liberally, I would say, just coming in, just sprinkling them in throughout. Some more like that. Keep going here. And we can just do a few more here. So we'll do this one over here. Maybe back it up a little bit more. And I can do maybe one more like so. So over here, and then one more in the middle. Okay. Now again, you'll want to come into the sequencer, locate the bubbles, and just come in and start offsetting any of them, except for one of them. You don't have to offset all of them, but I think you understand how that works, just so that they don't all look the same. Make sure I bring that one up a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. So now we have bubbles in place. You can see it's starting to shape up a little bit more. Now we want the rock bubbles. So we can just search out once again, rock bubbles, and I can bring this in. And we want to bring this one in front of all the rocks. So this one isn't going to be everywhere. Let's first get into position here. So that's looking about right. I'm just going to put this to 0.3 of the original size, since that seems to be the magic number for this particular part of the course. And I can just come in here and I can place it like that. So it kind of looks like this, but it's also blocking out the hard edges that we're getting with the rocks. You can see there's like this really hard edge. And so that's what I'm hoping that will help with. But I'm also going to come in here and just make a few adjustments because I don't know if it's quite positioned where it needs to be. So maybe right about there should work. I can also come in and use the rotate XY tool just to kind of rotate it out a little bit like that. And you can see we now have something like this going on. Okay. So we're just going to repeat these steps here for the rocks. I'm just going to come in, push it out about like that. And then we can push this one back. And we can shrink that one down a little bit too. Just kind of have it like so. And, you know, we might just do a little bit more here. I'll come in. Maybe I'll add it to the tree as well. So you kind of just put it where you want it. So if we just preview this out, it's kind of looking like that. Looking at this again, I might move this one out a little bit like so. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. The final step here is to go through and offset your rock bubbles in the sequencer, and then separate out your foreground and background elements that you just created into comps like we did in the first video of this series. And then you can export everything out and then bring it into After Effects. So since we did all of that before, I'm just going to pause here and do that between videos. Up next, if you don't want to go through the process of exporting, completely understandable, you can grab the exercise files in the next lecture.